Hi, Joe McLean here from CatholicHack.com with another traditional recurve archery tip, the gap method. Hey, it's been a couple, I guess probably over a month since my last video on traditional recurve archery tips here, but I've been really busy at work and the weather's not been great either, but luckily I've gotten some shooting in, not as much as I'd like, but God is good all the same. But you know, some time ago I had somebody comment on one of my videos saying they wanted more information on gap shooting, sort of a video focused on gap shooting, so I thought I'd love to do that. You know, this is probably the first opportunity I've had to try it, so here we go. We're going to give that a try. But before we begin to talk about the gap method in particular, I really want to stress this one point first. You need a repeatable, precise shot cycle. Okay, this is very important. It doesn't matter what method of shooting style you use. Gap method, string walking, instinctive. I mean, you could be shooting targets, hunting, even aerial targets. None of that matters, because no matter what style, no matter what you're shooting at, your shot cycle has to be repeatable and precise. I mean, you can't name an archer, you know, no matter who that archer is. Jeff Kavanagh, Grizzly Jim, Jimmy Blackmon, I mean, you name them, Byron Ferguson. All of these archers have a repeatable, precise shot cycle. They do the same thing from the way they grip the bow before they even raise that bow up onto target. The way they acquire their target is the same. The way they raise their bow hand and come back to anchor, the same anchor point. The way the elbow is lifted or not. I mean, it's all the same. The way they release, the way they bring their hand back, wherever that might be. The way they hold their bow, even after that arrow has left the bow. All of that is exactly the same every time. Okay, so that's step number one in becoming a better archer. It's really creating a repeatable, precise shot cycle. You know, in fact, a lot of times when I'm practicing, I really could care less where the arrow lands. I will just be out there practicing form. Okay, and listen, don't get me wrong. You don't need the same form as me. You don't even need the same form as Byron Ferguson. You need a form that'll work for you, that you can repeat every time. Listen, you can look at the difference of where your arrow impacts and make an adjustment to move it onto target. But that won't work if your shot cycle isn't precise. Okay, so it's very important that you create a shot cycle that works for you, that you can repeat every time. So, all right, so we got that down. Let's talk about gap shooting. Now, I used to shoot string walking method a lot, loved it, got some great results, but I found myself shooting with only one eye. And from a hunting perspective, I didn't find that ideal. So I kind of morphed into a gap method that I have sort of configured for my own sake. And I've talked about that in other videos with my bow and the notches that I have on the belly of the bow that I use. Those are my gaps right there. And I kind of have, my style is a lot like Byron Ferguson, you know, the famous archer who's been on TV everywhere. He's an incredible archer. I'm not an incredible archer, but I've adapted a similar style in that I focus on the point that I'm trying to shoot at. You know, 90% of my focus is on that point. 10% is on my gap, my little reference point. Byron uses either the tip of the arrow or his knuckle or something. I can't remember which it was, but something along those lines. Okay, so I find it to be a very good, repeatable style, the gap method. You can trust it. You can build confidence in it. That's what I love about it. All right, so let's talk about it. So the first thing is this. Your arrow, when you loose your arrow, it does not fly straight to the target. You obviously know that already. Your arrow flies like a football. It goes up once it's released, it peaks, and then begins to come down onto target, right? So if it has this arch, well, then we can calculate the gaps at various distances and use them to our advantage. I mean, it's that simple. At 10 yards, the arrow is going to be still climbing as it passes the target. It's still going to be on an upward trajectory. You know, depending on your bow setup, how your poundage, the kind of arrows, the weight of the arrow, the fletching that you might use, all of that will have factors in the performance in arrow flight, the arch. I mean, look at compound bows, for instance, very flat trajectories. I've seen very flat trajectories on traditional bows too. So you're going to have to figure out your setup in this equation, okay? So what we need to do is calculate that path. And at 15 yards, it's still going to be climbing. At 20, it's going to be probably peaking out. At 25, it may still be peaking out, but it may be starting to come down. And 30, it's definitely coming down. And 40, absolutely. And 50, even worse. You see what I'm saying? So you're going to have a positive gap and negative gaps that you're going to have to incorporate. Here's what I mean. So you got your target out here, and you're going to want an area where you can shoot arrows at this target and not worry about losing them over the top or the bottom. Okay, so you know, shoot safe, right? But don't lose your arrows either. So stand at 10 yards from your target and put the tip of the arrow, or some reference point, but let's, for the sake of the video, let's say the tip of the arrow right smack dab in the middle of your impact point. You know, the bullseye. Now shoot an arrow. What you're going to find is that arrow is going to land high. It's going to go over the top of your target. Because again, at 10 yards, when you release that arrow, it's climbing. It's still climbing as it passes the target. It's not peaked. It's over here. It's climbing. Okay, you're too close. So shoot 3 arrows at 10 yards, aiming at the exact same spot, the center, the bullseye, and take an average, so the center of your group, and measure down to the center of your target. That's your first gap. Let's pretend for a second that that's 30 inches. So let's pretend for your setup that's 30 inches. So now with 30 inches, measure 30 inches from the center of your target underneath your target. So 30 inches below the center of your bullseye, and pick a point. It's probably going to be in the dirt. You're going to be picking a point in the dirt. Don't be afraid. It's going to work out. Trust me. You put your tip of the arrow on that point. Let your arrow fly. You're going to find that if your shot cycle is precise and repeatable, that those arrows are going to go right into the center of your target. They're going to land right where you want them to be. Okay? So try that. Take that first 10 yards, measure that distance, and then pick that distance below your target, pick a point out, put your tip of the arrow on it, shoot it, and you should be in the bullseye. Now, repeat that process back to 15 yards. Go back to 20 yards and 25 and 35 or 40 or however many yards back you plan to shoot, and take these measurements, find the opposite impact point, and shoot it. Now, when you get past, say, 25 yards, like I said, that arrow is beginning to fall. So when you, at 25 yards, let's take 40 yards, for example. At 40 yards, when you put the tip of the arrow on your bullseye and you let the arrow fly, it's going to land beneath your target. You're going to miss low. So once again, shoot your group, take your measurement, the center of your group to the center of your target, and then now flip that up. So to take that measurement, and let's say again that's 30 yards. Let's pretend like it's 30 inches. Take a 30-inch point above your target, put your tip on it, shoot it. Now your arrows should be in your bullseye. Does that make sense? I hope so. But that's essentially how you calculate your gaps. Okay? So get a measuring tool, tape measure, get a nice target. Have the patience to do this well, because you want to make sure those numbers are precise. And when they are, you can count on them every time. And the next skill you're going to want to practice, you know, especially if you're a hunter, is determining distance. I spend a lot of time when I'm shooting, especially during the hunting season or when I'm ramping up for hunting season, trying to determine those distances. How far am I away from that tree? How far am I away from that stump? How far am I away from whatever? So I will try to test my own skills, make a guess, And then I will often check myself with my rangefinder. But what I do is I go out to my field near my house, set my orange ball up on the side of the ditch wall, and I'll step back 50 and 60 plus yards. And I won't measure at all, you know. I'll just go back to a long distance, and I'll guess, and I'll take my shot, see how it goes. And I try to test myself that way. By doing that, I build those gaps and that distance judgment into muscle memory. And it becomes easier to employ without thinking about it so much. So that's kind of how I do it. That's how I incorporate gap shooting and into a quasi-traditional instinctive mode. I focus on a point, but there's 10% of me that's also paying attention to my gaps. And I've, like I said before, have those gaps, little diagram on the belly of my bow. And in my peripheral vision, I can actually see that. So, makes sense? Now, there will be, I'll say this also, there's going to be a point where the gap at a close distance will be exactly the same as the gap at a far distance. That's because of this. You know, there's a point where they're on the same exact elevation the arrow is, right? So that point could be, say, 25 yards and 65 yards or something like that. I don't know. You're going to have to figure it out for your rig, but it's an interesting concept. You know, you're going to be aiming at the exact same point at those two distances, even though they're different from one another, and that's because of this arc. So there you go. That is the gap method. I encourage you to try it. Never be afraid to experiment and try new things in archery. You know, some people are strictly traditional. Oh, only instinctive, only instinctive, and only this way or only that way. I'm not that way, trust me. No, I say try different styles, see what works, what doesn't work, and focus on the style that maybe you've gravitated to. If you want to be a fully instinctive shooting archer, then go for it. Do that. You know, to do that well, you're going to have to commit yourself to practicing only that style until you've really got it down and it becomes instinctive and muscle memory for you. But I've kind of been on a journey in archery to discover, what do I like? Which styles am I most enjoying or finding the most success with? Our body types play a big role in that too. I'm a big guy, you know, so I have to kind of set my form up just slightly different than say smaller guys. But all of those factors play a role. But never be afraid to experiment. And if you haven't done so, experiment with the gap method. I think you'll find it's an enjoyable style and you'll get good results. All right, I'm praying for you that you shoot straight, and I hope that you'll pray for me that I shoot straight. And if you haven't done so, please click subscribe below, like the video, share the video, comment on the video. Hey, have you done a gap method before? What were your results? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I mean, I want to hear from you. No matter what that comment is, leave it below, and I look forward to that. Sharing is the way we learn as archers, right? Helping one another out. All right, until next time, may God richly bless you.